Hold on to your seats. You want to get NASM certified. Huh? You want to get NASM certified? Like your boy? Well, you come to the right place. I'm about to show you everything you need to know. Give you all my resources. Let's get it. Welcome back to the High Power Lifestyle YouTube channel. And of course, you are here because you want to get certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. So I did become certified, and since then it has been quite the journey for me, and I'm super excited to share with you today all of the tools, all of the resources, everything that I use to study and pass the NASM exam on my first try. There's a lot of stuff out there. I understand there's a lot of different YouTubers, there's a lot of different information, and I understand that this can become information overload and just pretty much drive you crazy, because all you want to do is just retain this information and become the best personal trainer that you could possibly become, right?
Hell yeah!
Look no further. I'm going to start here from A to Z with my process, all right? So starting with, I will kind of just advise to you guys, make sure that you're getting into this for the right reasons. That'll help with, your study intensity. It'll help with your adherence. If you're getting into this for the right reasons, all right? If you're getting in this just for the money or just for the title, you may be in for a rude awakening, all right? Especially from the money aspect, all right? Because I did get hired as a personal trainer through a big box gym, but bruh, let me tell you, the pay is nowhere what you would expect. All right, this may work for someone like fresh out of college or someone still staying with their parents, but if you're someone that's raising a family and you're used to making a certain amount of money, it will be a rude awakening for you. All right, so make sure you're getting into this for the right reasons. Make sure that it's your passion, because if you are used to making a certain amount of money, you may have to initially take a pay cut. All right, so I'm passionate about this. I've been on my health and wellness journey for over 20 years, almost 25 years now, and I myself lost 70 pounds in under 6 months, and I kept the weight off for over 6 years, almost 7 years now. So my goal is to help empower and, help individuals discover the best version of themselves and become the best version of themselves. So that's why I'm so passionate about this health and wellness thing. That's why I absolutely had to get my NASM certification, so I can continue to improve myself, my education, my learning, so I can become an even better leader, teacher, personal trainer to some of you guys. So here we are. I'm going to try my best here to be as detailed and thorough with this video. So I'm going to just kind of tell you how I started, where I started with my process. I'm going to highlight some of the really important things that you need to learn from this book, some of my study methods, some of the things that I actually did to study. And then I'm also going to, at the end of this video, speed through each chapter just so you can see the chapter and get an overview really quick. And I'm just going to highlight some of the stuff in there that more than likely will show up on the test. That does not mean that you do not have to read yourself every single chapter. If you follow the steps that I'm giving you, if you use the tools and you apply yourself, you will do good when it comes to testing. I promise you. But you have to follow the steps thoroughly. There are no shortcuts with this, okay? Regardless of what you may hear out there. So a while back, I purchased the self-study course through NASM for about $1,200. All right, so I purchased the self-study guide. Of course, came with the book. You get the online access, and I got like virtual coaching and some other add-ons as well. And that was about $1,200. Now, the self-study is going to be 100% on you, all right? And some people may look at the self-study and say, well, you didn't get official teaching, like you were not in a class setting. If you can apply yourself and you can pass this with the self-study course, that is just a testament of just how passionate and determined you are to become a certified personal trainer. So hats off to you for that. You are amazing. and don't let nobody else tell you otherwise. All right, this is not easy. I did this with a job. I did this managing a business. I did this training for marathons. I did this managing my family and also trying to find just some me time. This is going to take you really locking in. You've come this far. You made the decision. Time to lock in. So now when you start to study, all right, the way that I studied, I actually read this book from chapter to chapter, all right, and then also even the glossary. It has some templates in the back. There's 6 sections and 23 chapters. You will want to read every chapter. What that does is that's going to build the confidence you need when it comes to test taking day. What I will also suggest is that once you purchase this, schedule your test date, a reasonable time. I would say give yourself maybe 3 months, 3 to 4 months, if you'd like. But if you want to try to expedite it, I would say comfortably 2 months, 3 months, maybe, to study and get this done. If you don't schedule that testing time, you find a location, schedule you a time, you may be at risk of just giving yourself too much space and opportunity to put the book down, studying down, and come back, at a later time when life gets hectic. But if you have a date, like a hard date that that your test is scheduled for, it'll force you to lock in a bit more and, try to do your best to meet that deadline. I did put mine down on a couple occasions, and at one point it was about 6 months where, life just got in the way and I was not able to keep up with the material. And I'm the type of person that if it goes too long, I just start over. And that's what I did a couple times. But of course, last time I locked in and I made it happen, and I set my date on my birthday. So on my birthday, August 4th, 2025, I became certified. So I encourage you to set a date, maybe 3 months or so out. I don't think you need more than 6 months, but just find that range, however aggressive you want to be. I wouldn't encourage you to do a month. That is too much pressure. Whatever date you choose, you can change it, but choose something so you'll know how much time you have there, and just get after it. So the beautiful thing about this is you have the textbook and you have the online version. I studied more through the online version, so I read the entire book. I was making my notes in the hard copy, but one of the benefits of having online access is you can still do the highlights, you can still take notes, you can do bookmarks, but after every chapter, there's an actual test, and then after every section there's like a section review. Okay, so it's a test that may be about 50 questions. I found that very, very helpful in just kind of testing my knowledge of what I learned in the previous chapter or the previous section. So I would encourage you to lean heavily on the online as well. It'll just give you a better picture of where you are with your learning and how you're absorbing the material. As I mentioned, you'll want to read every chapter. I know, and I'm sorry to have to call you out, Show Up Fitness is a YouTube channel that actually that I looked at as well. I mean, it was helpful, but he will advise that you don't have to necessarily read through the entire book. Do not listen to that advice, okay? Everything else is on point. He's very thorough in his teaching. He's very knowledgeable, a lot of experience there. Another reason I say that, there are no shortcuts is because this is not an easy test. With me, I've never been a test taker. I've always been a reader. I love to study. I love to learn. But, test taking, especially multiple choice, it's not really been my thing. But with that said, if you go online, you'll see that the NASM CPT is one of the harder certifications out of the others. It's like a 60 to 70% pass rate on this test for a reason. But no matter what type of test taker you are, my advice to you is to read chapters 1 through 23. Really read to understand and not to memorize. All right. The more that you can familiarize yourself with these terms, and the more that you actually study, the more that you read, the more that you write, the more that you recite, the more confident you'll become about everything. These notebooks here, These are all filled with notes from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 23. So what I would do is, as I'm reading, sometimes I would stop, or sometimes I just read all the way through. I maybe highlight some of the tougher to understand concepts. And then what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll write like chapter 1 or chapter 2 or chapter 3 at the top of the page. And then I'll just come back and in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, I'll write down the tougher concepts. I'll write it out. It's all about just kind of, internalizing this information. So you want to read it, you want to write it, and you want to recite it. This was the writing portion of me absorbing the knowledge. So I would just write down not every single word, but just the hard to understand concepts. So I'll go through every chapter and do that. Yes, it takes time, but again, if you come into this with the right expectation, you'll understand that, okay, you have to carve out, 3 to 6 months of you just really being focused on this. And if you have a game plan, then you'll know how to attack each chapter. You want to go into each chapter with a game plan. And again, it's read, write, recite. You want to use that for every single chapter and draw out some of the diagrams as well. Some of the harder to understand diagrams, draw those out. It's going to really get that information encoded into your brain. All right. So that is my advice to you on that. So the notebooks are key for me. So I took a ton of notes so I could really, really grasp those tougher concepts. All right. The next thing is the index cards. All right. So these index cards, just like the notebooks, became very helpful. Again, the writing portion of it. I myself would write down all of the concepts that I felt that I needed to really, really understand. It didn't have to necessarily be tough, but it had to be something that I think would come up on the test. Okay, so some things like if you refer to the study guide, which I'll get to in a second, they have some of the stuff listed as very important. So I would make sure a lot of this stuff was written down, and then also some of the stuff that I just wanted to know. Again, this is just building confidence around everything. So it's not just trying to learn exactly what I need to pass, but it's also me learning and internalizing the things that I need that will help me be a great coach as well. So I would write down those tougher concepts, put them on the cards, and I would just test myself. It would be, either I'll carve out 10 minutes if I had an hour, whatever the case may be. I would just go through these cards over and over again. You have to learn to compartmentalize your time, especially if you're busy. So if you only have like 10 minutes, you just go through the flashcards, you go through the notes in your notebook and just read as much as you can. Just memorizing and getting that information ingrained into your mind so it's almost just second nature, all right? So if you have 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, flashcards, your notes, great tools to study there. So get you some index cards ASAP. And some other things you'll need to help you as well. You want to get you a pencil because you'll be doing a lot of writing, maybe doing a lot of erasing, highlighters as well, just so you can highlight some of your notes, some things in the book. You'll want that. And then also in the study guide, you may want to highlight a few things. So get you a good highlighter. And mentioning the study guide, you want to print out that study guide. That study guide is available to print out. If you go online through your portal, and you will see like there's some options at the top as you're studying that'll get you to the sections where you can print out, the study guide for each chapter, or you can print out the overall NASM study guide. And that's just the overall study guide, which highlights the very important parts of every single chapter. So I would advise that you just go ahead, print that out, have that in your arsenal as another tool that you can just quick reference and go through all of the hard, necessary concepts that you'll need to learn for each chapter. If you want a copy of this study guide for free, all I'm asking you to do is just like and subscribe to the channel. Go over and follow me on my Instagram, Higher Power Lifestyle. So higher with a Y. So Higher Power Lifestyle. Follow me there. And just email me at info@higherpowerlifestyle.com. And remember, higher with a Y instead of an I. So email me there and I'll send you over a copy of this study guide. Another thing that I did that I really feel that helped me expedite this process, I really lean heavily on the online book as well. So I would log into the portal. I would carve out maybe an hour, 2 hours or more before I went to bed. I would just lay in the bed. One of the advantages of studying on the phone is there's actually a podcast that you would see like after every chapter. There's also videos as well that kind of just reiterate all of the information that you learned in the previous chapter. All of this is just kind of just sharpening the saw. So it's just making sure that you're really getting the concept, because if no one else tells you, this test is not about memorization. This is actually about conceptualizing and internalizing the information. You actually have to know and understand these concepts. And that's very important, because you don't want to get into training for selfish reasons and end up injuring your clients.
Your way down. There you go. There you go. Come on, jump. Come on. Almost there, almost there, almost there, almost there.
And that's another thing, if I didn't already mention it, you do have to be CPR AED certified, and you also have to have insurance as well. You will have to have your own insurance when you're training. So there's a lot of different ones you can choose from. You want to make sure that you're as knowledgeable as possible so that you could offer safe and effective training to your clients. That's what it's all about, man. The goal is to make money, and to make money, you have to deliver a quality product. All right, so you have to be a really good trainer. So go to the App Store. All right, there's things there that can help you learn, like the muscles, the bones, the nervous system. There's also something called Poke a Muscle, where it's like a game where it will test you and quiz you on the different muscles and things like that. Some people use Quizlet. They use it for the flashcards and stuff like that. And you really need to hyper focus on these subjects and these concepts. Number one is the OPT model. All right, so the optimal performance training model. You need to really understand this. All right, you need to internalize this. The way that NASM structures their training and their concepts and all that stuff is backed by the science-based OPT model. The next thing you want to understand is the overhead squat assessment. You need to be able to look at your clients and identify any weaknesses or imbalances in the muscles. Now, to speed things up a bit, I want to make sure that I hit on some of the really important concepts that you need to study. So when you see these in the book, take a moment to really study and absorb the information around these concepts. All right, so the energy system, so the ATP-PC, glycolytic, oxidative system, OPT model, really important. Overhead squat assessment, stages of change, overactive and underactive muscles, progressions and regressions, really important. Understand stretching and when dynamic and static stretching is most appropriate. All right, you want to understand that. Planes of motion, okay, big one. Open and closed chain movements, you will see some questions come up around that. Agonist, antagonist, and synergist muscles, you want to understand that. Also eccentric, concentric, and isometric, isokinetic movements. That is really important as well. And another thing to really note is that the questions that you're going to see on the quiz and maybe, the chapter review and also the practice exam, for my test, for the actual test, my questions were structured totally different. Structured for understanding. So it wasn't something that I could just memorize when studying the book, or just memorizing some of the test questions or quiz questions or practice exam questions. I actually had to know the concepts, because all of my questions were worded and structured different, than they were on the actual test that I took online. So that's important to note. You may luck up and you may get a different test. The tests are different, but mine was not like what I took online. Also, upper cross, lower cross syndrome, really important. And also CEUs, so continuing education units. You'll need 20 of those every 2 years. So you want to be able to understand all of those concepts. You'll need your ID, you'll need your CPR certification as well before you can actually test. You can take the test at home, but I chose to go to a facility because I heard that taking the test at home is very, very strict. And you want to be really well rested the night before, get you a good 8-9 hour sleep. And you want to have a good breakfast in the morning, light breakfast, but good breakfast. I went with oatmeal for its brain boosting nutrients. I needed everything I could get. And you'll want to breathe and relax and just understand that you are about to become certified through one of the most respected academies in the world, and that's NASM. All right, so just breathe and relax. When you get there, your nerves will be going and your heart will be racing, but you want to breathe and relax. Try the box breathing technique before you take your test, and you're going to do well. So use my video as an overall reference point, and just use some of the tools that I am giving you as well, some of the advice that I'm giving you as well, and apply it to your learning style, you know. And then again, just use the tools and the resources that I'm giving you and just put it all together, man, and we're going to ace this thing. The actual exam is 120 questions. You only need 70% to pass. And like 20 of the questions that won't be scored at all. So it's really 100. You won't know which ones are which. So, you know, you will have some questions on there that's going to throw you for a loop. It's going to make you nervous possibly, because you're going to be like, man, I didn't read this. I don't remember this. It's all a part of NASM's testing structure, just to really make sure that you're comfortable with the material and what you've learned, because you're actually about to take this to the real world and apply this. It's a pass-fail, so you won't get a score or any of that. You'll just get a pass or a fail at the end of your exam. And I'll throw this out there as well. My advice to you, if you're looking at it from a money perspective, if you're trying to make as much money as possible, joining the big box gym will be great for experience and knowledge and you know, just actually practicing and getting those reps in when it comes to training. But my advice to you would be, if you are looking to grow, make money, and make it profitable, make sure that somewhere along your journey, independence is there. That's why I created High Power Lifestyle Health and Wellness. So I have my own company. If you go to my website, I've created my own training plans using a lot of the things that I learned out of the NASM textbook, including the OPT model, which is really important. We'll get to that later. And also what I learned through the big box gym and training clients of my own and things like that. So you want to get those reps in that way. The money is in independence when it comes to personal training. Yeah, you can make money training clients face-to-face at a big box gym. But, you know, starting out, you're going to be giving up a huge percentage of your training fees and a huge percentage of your time. All right. So just understand that. If that's something that you like and that's okay with you, have at it. But if you're really trying to make this sustainable, make a lot of money, impact more people throughout the world, being independent, I believe, is the way to go, through a combination of face-to-face training and online training and virtual training. And you'll want to know, once you get the certification, a lot of places will ask for at least 2 years of experience. So it is important that when you get into these interviews, if you're able to get in front of someone, you really shine. You really present your best self. You want to be sharp with the knowledge, understanding, you know, how to progress and regress clients. A lot of these questions and things will come up in the interview. Trust me. Now let's dive into this book. I'm trying to breeze through it as fast as I can, but highlight some of the important concepts while I do so. So get ready. I do want to mention the YouTube channels that I used, and I think these are only ones you will need to use to study and get really good quality knowledge and teaching on this information, everything in this book. You'll want to check out Sorta Healthy Trainer. You'll want to watch Show Up Fitness, watch Axiom Fitness Academy, really great. One of my favorite is Body Design University. All right, you'll want to look at those 4 channels, take notes, watch the videos over and over and over again, and of course myself, watch my video as well, and just reference it all. And you're going to do amazing, I promise. All right, so now let's dive into this book. Chapter 1 is the modern state of health and fitness. It's going to talk a lot about the evidence-based practice. All right, kinesiology and the evidence-based practice, and also the OPT model, as I mentioned before. All right, and the global state of health, just like a general overview of the state of health. A lot of good information there. A lot of definitions on the side of the book as well. On the side of the pages, you'll want to really study those definitions. They're very, very important. It also talk about your the healthcare continuum as well in this chapter. Chapter 2 is the personal training profession. All right, so let's talk about the industry employment landscape. This will tell you how to write resumes and all of that stuff. It'll kind of go over how to present yourself during an interview and give you a lot of good information around that. Chapter 3, the psychology of exercise, really important when you're trying to get into the mind and understand the mind of your clients. This chapter will help with that. It'll talk about intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, really, really important concepts to get there. Another thing is it'll show the relationship between exercise, self-esteem, and body image. That's another good one as well. We're at chapter 4. All right, behavioral coaching. Just, coaching individuals who may have doubts, the behavioral change techniques. All right, so we're all human, so there's a lot of different things that will cause us to not want to exercise or get in the way. So there's barriers and all kind of things like that. And also in chapter 4, you'll come across the stages of change models. You want to really learn about that. Oh, SMART as well. So SMART is another big one. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Chapter 5, the nervous, muscular, and skeletal system. It's kind of self-explanatory, but it's pretty much talking about the human movement system. You want to read this thoroughly. All right, really important chapter. So to go into the nervous system, we're going to the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, the motor nerves, sensor nerves, all the somatic, the autonomic, nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic, all that stuff. So really good stuff there. Let's get into chapter 6 is the cardiorespiratory, endocrine, and digestive system. Really important chapter there. This will talk about the heart, the blood flow, the vessels. So it's really important to understand these concepts. It's not a chapter you want to skip. Chapter 7, human movement science. So we're talking about the human movement system. So nervous, skeletal, muscular. So more information around that. Talking about, how to view the human body from the anatomic position, the lateral position, medial, lateral, ipsilateral, contralateral, all of those concepts there, the biomechanics, the different planes. So the frontal plane, sagittal plane, transverse plane. All right, so chapter 8, exercise metabolism and bioenergetics are really important, gets into the ATP and just the human energy currency of the body. We're going to skip that. We're going to run out of time. Talks about, the Golgi apparatus and the just the mitochondria and everything there, and the energy systems, as I mentioned. Chapter 9, nutrition. All right, self-explanatory. It's kind of out of your scope of practice, but it'll talk about that in chapter 9. Really important there. Learn about your macronutrients, micronutrients, all those things. We are going. Chapter 10, supplementation. Another one, you really don't need to know a whole lot about this, but supplementation is really important. So that is in chapter 10. Chapter 11, we'll talk about health, wellness, and fitness assessment. So that's where you're talking about the overhead squat assessments and things like that. So that's really important. Also the PAR-Q, the health history questionnaire, all that stuff is in that chapter. Don't want to skip that. That's meat and potatoes of all of this. 12, okay, which is postural movement and performance assessments. Is going to talk about muscle imbalances and things like that. Overhead squat assessment. All of that is in there to give some diagrams of some exercises as well. We're going into chapter 13, integrated training and OPT model. So let's get more into that OPT model there in chapter 13. If you want to really study that. Chapter 14, flexibility training concepts. So this is an important one here. Flexibility, I'll talk about range of motion. We'll get into the human movement system, muscle imbalances, poor posture, all of those things there. It'll give you some really good diagrams here as well. Let's see. Really good exercises as well. Different stretches as well. So a lot of different pictures here. You'll really like this one. That'll progress you through the book there. Chapter 15, cardiorespiratory fitness training. All right, this is really important. Something you don't hear a lot about when building out a training plan, but this is a really important chapter here. Chapter 16, core training concepts. All right, so you're going to just identify the physical benefits of core training. All right, so stabilization. It's talking about the global muscles and also the local muscle groups. All right, so You want to really study that. Chapter 18, plyometrics. Okay. I know. I skipped chapter 17. Moving too fast. Chapter 17, another really important chapter, balanced training concepts. All right. So, center of gravity, we're talking about the sensory motor function, visual, somatosensory, vestibular. Really important chapter here. So this chapter is also full of a lot of visual techniques that show you how to progress when it comes to these balance exercises. It's a really important chapter and not that long. Chapter 18, plyometrics. Okay, this won't apply to all of the clients, but really good chapter here. Give you some exercises and guidelines around plyos, box jumps, all that stuff. And chapter 19, speed, agility, and quickness training concepts. All right. So again, this may not apply to all of your clients, but really important concept here to understand, and also give you some drills. Chapter 20, resistance training concepts. All right. So this is where we get into the lifting weights. All right. This is where the OPT model really starts to make sense in this chapter here. Talk about how to grow muscle, muscular strength, stabilization, muscular endurance, all of those things, power, all of that. A lot of diagrams here as well. A lot of examples on how to progress and regress exercises. Chapter 21, the optimal performance training model. So it comes back to tie all of this together in chapter 21 and how to put it all together here and just, build out a plan. It gives you the actual optimal performance training template so you can actually write out effective exercise from warm-up activation, skill development, resistance training, client's choice, all the way down to the cool down. All right, so a lot of examples, linear periodization, all of that stuff, so, and at the end, there's always the chapter highlights as well, chapter reviews. You want to take notes, you want to read over this, highlight that area. 22, introduction to exercise modalities. So these are all the different things like, the free weights, all the gadgets, all the things that you'll use, like the TRX RIP trainer, the medicine balls, the watches, the kettlebells, all that stuff, the smartwatches. Last chapter, which is chronic health condition and special population. So we're talking about the youth, we're talking about people with chronic illnesses, we're talking about like diabetes, cancer, pregnant women, and things like that, how to train those and structure programs around those individuals. So really important chapter there. Obesity as well, how to create plans for individuals that may be overweight, coronary heart disease and things like that, osteoporosis. That is pretty much it. That is it, man. I think I beat Show Up Fitness for real. In the appendix, so it goes over the PAR-Q, a lot of PAR-Q examples here, health history questionnaires in the back, body composition measurements, that's another thing, static and dynamic postural assessments, all of those things are here. You go back some more, you'll end up to the glossary, the muscular system. The appendix C shows the muscular system, talks about all of the different muscles, highlights those, the concentric, eccentric, isometric functions of each muscle, and then the glossary. That's pretty much everything, man. So if you take your time, read through this book, understand the concepts, write down, take the notes, use the flashcards, download the apps, the study guide, Google these concepts, YouTube these concepts, Chat GTP these concepts, use the YouTube channels that I gave you, and go further in really understanding these concepts. This is self-study, so this is not easy, all right? Use the cheat sheet, all right? Use the study guide, and you're going to be fine, I promise. Email me at info@higherpowerlifestyle.com. If you have any questions, comment below here. Also, if you've passed the NASM CPT, comment some of your strategies below. Let's help each other be successful. All right, this is not an easy test. I really want to thank you guys for watching this video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. This is a lot of information. I just wanted to put this together to help those individuals out there who's really looking for all the help they can get to pass this NASM exam. So again, thank you guys for watching, and as always, baby, keep going higher. Peace.